Welcome to the Core Women Podcast, the place for women entrepreneurs, authors, and self-starters looking to build community and gain valuable insights through expert interviews with women at the top of their game. Join your host, podcaster, producer, expert coach, entrepreneur, and author, Dr. Summer Watson, as she aims to inspire and empower you through these candid conversations. Lean in and embrace the journey. It's time to start the show. Here's your host, Dr. Summer Watson.
Welcome back to the Core Women Podcast. Today's guest is Dora Rankin, who is an author, speaker, sales strategist, and creator of the Heart Sell Method. With over 25 years of experience in sales and business development, Dora has helped countless women hit six-figure months and secure game-changing contracts without relying on paid ads or social media. But Dora's journey isn't just about business wins. From addiction recovery to caregiving, heartbreak, and burnout. And now she's using those lessons to uplift other women by showing them how to sell with heart and reclaim their economic power. Welcome, Dora.
Hello. So nice to be here, Summer.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here with you and learn more about you. So before we jump into your professional journey, if you could describe your life to this point in one word, what would that word be and why?
So I think this is one word. It might have a hyphen in it, but
Okay.
to sum it up, it would 100% be relationship building.
I love that. Tell us more.
I'll share this. Growing up, my mother, she was one of those people that didn't have a filter.
Mm.
And she would walk up to anyone and she would have a conversation with anyone, but she would also tell anyone things that, maybe they didn't want to hear. So I grew up in this family dynamic where it was my mom, it was myself, and it was my older sister. So all of us girls. And my mom loved really, really big, and she had zero filter. So if you can picture that. So I also grew up not really having much of a filter and also like wanting to hug everybody I met. And it goes into my adulthood, that same type of feel of if you walk into an elevator and you look at me for less than 2 seconds, all of a sudden, I am going to find out your whole story before we get off the elevator. And the funny thing is I'm an introvert. I'm not even an extrovert. I'm an introvert. But I love getting my hands one-on-one with people and learning as much as I can about them.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds more like, Dora, you might be an ambivert. So somebody who has like some external social nuances, and then also you have that introversion. So you're like, yeah, no, not today. No, I'm not ready for people today. But it sounds like there's a nice balance where like if you're in that elevator, somebody's looking at you, and all of a sudden you're like, they look nice. I want to give them a hug. I want to learn more about them.
Right.
I can see that.
Literally the first date with my husband, we went to this darling little Chinese restaurant. And during the conversation, he literally looked at me and said, I feel like I have like a light shining over my head right now. Like, you're asking me so many questions. And again, that's because of interest. I really like to get to know people.
Yeah, I absolutely adore that. It is so important, especially in life. How do we connect? How are we creating those relationships? It's not just transactional. It's more like how do we really bond with these people and have that sense of belonging or connection? Well, Dora, your journey is incredibly powerful from personal loss and addiction recovery to becoming a sales leader and coach for women entrepreneurs. Can you share what led you to create the Heart Sell Method and some of that evolution?
Yes, I absolutely would love to. So a lot of times I say it's the heart cell and people are like, what is that? It's not the hard cell, it's the heart cell. So a lot of people get that confused. And most people don't like the word sales at all. So just to go back a little bit, I was a single mom, divorced by the time I was 25, with two little girls. They were 2 and 4, and a finance degree. So how does, sales and relationship building, how does that happen through a finance degree? But my very first job at the bank, I had a mentor who was a powerhouse feminist. And she actually had founded a women's only bank back in the 70s, which is crazy.
That is crazy
In the
considering
70s.
that
Yeah.
was close to when we could have checks and have
Right.
bank accounts.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that was my very first boss, my very first mentor. And one of the things that she taught me was to be a leader, you have to put others before yourself always. So that was the type of leadership that I had in the beginning, very bold, but also very sincere. So I spent the next 17 years at the bank climbing ferociously the ladder of corporate America. And I did that because I'm a product of my environment. And my mom was a single mom. My mom was a director of nursing. So that's what I knew was to overachieve. And that's what I did. So for the next 17 years, that's where I spent my time. And my roles primarily were always in business banking and coaching and developing sales leaders, relationship managers, working directly with business owners and C-suites. And so it's just in my DNA to understand the roadmap of growth for a business and to lead the people along the way within that sector. So I had lost my job. I got fired 3 times. So after the third time of being firing, I'm like, okay, I am truly the disruptor. I'm not supposed to be here. And so after my third round of being at a bank and losing my job for the third time, that's when I decided that I would go back to school and with a lot of fear because I was always the breadwinner. So that really good job at the bank was what I thought was security. So I took the risk. I went back to school. I studied empowering women's leadership at Cornell, and this was about 10 years ago. And while I was there, I started to get really interested in entrepreneurship and startups and high growth startups and ended up falling in love with that division of entrepreneurship. And so I joined one as managing partner number 4 and built this startup over a 3-year period from nothing, complete white space, not even a whiteboard, to 17 states and 20 million in sales. And so when that happened, I said, I might be onto something here. Like I might have some good, solid IP. And I didn't really know it yet. But, in my world, there's always a plan and it's not mine. It's somebody's bigger plan. And so the plan that I didn't really know of was in February of 2020, I was standing in the middle of a big conference called Money 2020. And I looked out into the room and I saw maybe 10 women in the room of 3,000. And I said, wait a sec. I'm right where I was before. Like, this is exactly what I just kept getting fired. Now I'm in the same place I was before. And so within 6 months, I exited the startup. And that's when I began consulting and coaching women founders. The Heart Cell itself was founded throughout that journey over the last almost 6 years. And literally, it stemmed from every single time I went to work with a woman founder, they looked at me like deer in headlights, like so challenged as to how they were going to actually grow their business. They did not know the how. They did
Hmm.
not have the strategy. They were so lost and they were really relying on these online courses and all different little pieces of noise to help them figure it out. So that's where the heart cell came from.
Gotcha. Now tell me, as we look at your journey and looking at your beginnings in the corporate arena, but also looking at some of the personal aspects of your life, how did those influence growth? And the missteps encouraged the wisdom, which the wisdom then played into next steps. Tell us more about that personal journey.
I share this story in the book, and the really disheartening, soul-wrenching part that gets me is that this story is a story that I hear from women over and over and over 25 years later. So, in my early 20s, as this single mom trying to climb this corporate ladder, this is the late 90s. And I was put in a position where I had to make a completely unreasonable decision, whether to take a promotion or to lose my government assistance, because that's what I was on.
Yeah.
Even though I was working at the bank, I had a really good job. I still had healthcare and daycare for my two daughters. And if I would take that promotion, it would kick me off of that, but that would not give me enough money to live. I needed to make three times the amount of what the promotion was going to be.
Yeah.
And this was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I still am hearing that story. If I
Oh,
take this
yeah.
job, I will lose this. The system is totally broken. And it's like so beyond the system. I could soapbox on this for hours. But I talk about in the book that moment in time when I'm like in my early 20s, having to make that decision.
Yeah.
And I chose to take the promotion. I chose to take the promotion and eat ramen for the next however many years until I got the next promotion and the next promotion and the next promotion. But was that right? Was that not right? I don't know. But I share that story because what it taught me is that instead of allowing the lack of resources and the lack of system to stand in my way, I chose options, even when there probably really weren't options. I still chose options.
Yeah, right. It sounds like much like me. I love those options. Those options are so nice, or what we envision as options or options potentially down the road. That's tough making that decision because there are a lot of variables that weigh into that and how you're going to live and your quality of life and the quality of life for your family. And so those are tough decisions. And
Hmm.
people still make them today, as you know. So you wrote the book the heart cell. You have explained to us some of the things that inspired that book. Tell us a little bit more about that book, the mission to help women, especially BIPOC women, and some of the ideas that will help women take back their economic power.
So I was talking to a girlfriend the other day and she said, I'm going to start changing my branding a bit to not be just women, but to be people because so many people, they look at the word woman and they're turned off.
Mm,
And that can happen, right? I mean, we're seeing that completely in the whole DEI movement. So I looked at her with opinion, but strong belief that the word woman is not going to ever go out of my branding, ever. And that's for a bazillion reasons. But one of the main ones is that no matter what, my purpose is to help women drive economic power so they can make more money, so they can make more decisions. We live in an economy that is produce and consume. Produce and consume. That is our economy. I studied it. And then I went on to study how women's brains work. And there's a big disconnect because women, we don't look at produce and consume, produce and consume. We look at give, give, give. Give a little bit more. That's how we've been programmed. So we have to take this economy that we're in and we have to put our brains into this economy and learn how to produce and consume so we can make more decisions. But we don't want to lose our strength, which is give, which is build relationship, which is utilize that. And we don't connect the two enough at all. So it's not about just go make money and be greedy. It's about make money driven by your purpose, but also so you can make decisions because of the economy we live in.
yeah, you bring up so many really valid points where we could go down different roads for hours because here's the thing, you obviously know that in my branding, that's not going to change either.
Yeah.
The word woman is not going to change.
Hmm.
We are 50% of this population. So, quite frankly, that's not going to change.
Hmm.
However, our mindset, our behavior, our understanding, that's what your book is about. The heart cell, keeping that womanness of sorts,
Hmm.
maintaining that by still being able to make a living, being able to thrive versus survive, being able to do it on your terms. And what does that look like? And not to say that men aren't involved or that men aren't connected with us, because we absolutely are. We share this space.
Hmm.
We lift each other up. That is community. There's so many men behind this podcast that refer, that lift this podcast up, that listen to this podcast. And I am so thankful they're with me in this. But if you look at our history and you look at the conditioning, how we've been brought up from our great grandmother to our grandmother. We have some strong women there, but there was still a lot of that conditioning about where we could be, what table we could sit at, how much we could make. And we still have these questions, still are raising these questions and these issues today. So what you're doing out there by bringing forth this program, the Heart Cell book, you're helping women become unconditioned, learning how they can thrive in many different ways. And I love your background, your education, the things that you've been through to get to where you are, the decisions you've made. Many women entrepreneurs feel overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
or resistant when it comes to sales. And that's why you get that kind of like that deadpan look or that like look of, I'm lost. I don't know what's happening. How does your approach flip the script on traditional selling?
So, yay. I love this question. So I'll go back to my mom. My mom I mentioned was unfiltered. And so my approach is very no nonsense. Fluff in, fluff out. So someone said to me, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but it's like funny. Someone said, there's no fairy farts here. We're going to bring you tangibility. The heart cell, it's not built on manifesting everything to all of this money. It's truly intellectual property that I've been using for years and years through a mishmash, right? None of our thoughts are original, but I've taken Sandler and EOS and sports coaching and everything that I've implemented along the way. I picked out the things that were always working, no matter what. They were always working. And those four things that were always working is to really identify your audience down to the name. Not so much just the avatar and the persona and what the copy should be and the messaging, but like literally, who is my ideal buyer down to the name? And am I literally reaching out to them? And that's so scary for people. But if we're doing that from a place of intention that is sincere, back to my first boss, then it doesn't matter how they perceive us because we know we're going to them with the intention to be sincere. The second is that we're not looking at partnership building from a strategic way. And partnership building does not have to be just word of mouth. Partnership building is that relationship that ripples on and ripples on and ripples on. And if you know how to nurture that relationship, it can be extremely beneficial for both. The third is, how are you owning authority in your ecosystem? Are you truly getting out there with strategy? I hear so many people say, I got to get out there more. I got to get out there more. What does that actually look like? And when it comes to your ecosystem, you need to nail that audience. Get in front of podcasts like I'm on today. Get in front of stages that your audience is at and do that on repeat, not just randomly. And then the last is the least important, but it's where we spend most of our time, and that's our inbound marketing. And so our marketing is basically what its job is to nurture those other three pillars, to build credibility and to truly nurture. It's not to replace your sales process.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is why I so appreciate you being on this program today because here's the thing. We can go to a sermon, we can go to a classroom, we can go to all these different places and get inspired. And that inspiration is fantastic. That gives us hope. That gives us joy. That kindles that passion. However, that inspiration can fade pretty quickly if we don't have the steps. If we don't know where to go, you'll see more of that look like deer in the headlights, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? I don't know what's happening, and be fearful of the unknown. But when you read something like The Heart Cell or go to your conference, you're going to learn the steps to be able to break down that fear, reduce it at least, build your confidence and be able to take the steps to really cultivate those relationships and build your community that needs your service.
Isn't that true though? Like your point of you can go to the conference and really be inspired.
Yeah.
And I agree. The strategy, the action, those steps, they don't work if it's not from a mindset that you have unwavering belief that you're the expert at what you do. So you've got to have both. A lot of the times, we only have one. We only have that mindset. We're constantly working on the mindset. And then all of the action and the strategies, hamster wheelie and shiny shiny objecty. And so
Yeah.
we don't know. Or we have the other. We have the strategy and we're forcing, but we don't have the mindset.
Right.
So we've got to put both together.
Right. And it comes together so well, but those nuances, right? Getting really granular about your audience, who that audience is, being able to speak to them, being able to nurture that, and also making it into relationship versus transactional. And here's the thing, Dora, we are so good at that as women.
We are.
Why do we not feel confident in that skill set? We do it
Right.
every single day. And so I'm like, come on, just like you said. And I think people will get inspired, just reading your book and also being at your event. I'm so excited about it. Can you tell us more about that event coming up?
Yes, the event that you'll be at on May 29th and May 30th of
Yeah,
2026.
yeah. I
Of
like how you say
course.
that. The event that you'll be at. Absolutely.
Yes, it's May 29th and May 30th. It's in my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. I decided after traveling the last few years with the book launch, this was the year that I would really plant roots around the heart
Nice.
cell in my hometown. So, and yeah, it'll be a day and a half soiree where we're going to dig deep into the heart cell. So it's a day of learning, interactive workshops, obviously inspiration as well, but you'll walk away with a roadmap that's inside the book.
Nice. We have covered so much, and there's so many more questions I had, but we're coming close to the end of our interview here. So I'm going to ask you this last question. For women listening who feel stuck in sales or unsure where to begin, what's one powerful tip they can use today to move towards consistent income and deeper confidence?
Shout it from the rooftops without fear. Just shout it from the rooftops. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be so messy. The wrong way is just to not do it. So just shout it from the rooftops.
Fabulous. Thank you, Dora, for joining me on the Core Women podcast today.
Thank you for having me. Super fun.
Absolutely. You can connect with Dora Rankin on LinkedIn and Facebook at Dora L. Rankin and at www.dorarankin.com.
Thank you for joining us on the Core Women podcast with Dr. Summer Watson. We're so glad you're here and would love to connect more with you. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Core Women and on Twitter at Core Women 1. For more about Core Women and Dr. Watson, visit corewomen.com. Want more support and resources for amazing women like you? Great! Join Dr. Watson and Jen Fontanilla at the Life, Love, and Money Collective, a Core Women production that aids in understanding the key traits that might be getting in the way of living a life that you are absolutely passionate about. Connect with Summer and Jen and find out more at thelifeloveandmoney.com.